Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Clubhouse Show. Dave LaPointe along with my good friends Mike LaValliere and the fabulous Meatball on a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Gentlemen, I hope everything treated you well. You didn't lose any fingers. I had a mishap of getting bit by red ants, but I hope the beer was cold and the fireworks were entertaining.
They were in my case. I was down in Clearwater and got to see the fireworks over there, and had a good time. I didn't blow my fingers off. I didn't do anything, and I still have my legs from the ants too. I guess I'm next. It's first you, and then Jimmy, and then.
McKeon's just able to walk with a cane now, and I had to go to emergency care. So, but we got to watch out for them little bastards. They're rough on you.
Yeah, not me. I'm too rotten. Nothing bites my ass.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure
just,
a fire ant can't get through the hair on your legs.
Yeah, well, that might be true, but I'm way too mean and rotten. I've been told that many times.
Just take a handful and swallow them and teach them a lesson?
Yeah, you know what? They're a little too nutritious. I'm looking for a little bit more like Pringles. Ants don't taste nearly as good. Those sour cream Pringles, yeah, those are really good.
Sour cream Pringles and red ants. There's a new one for the menu. Now let's, a sad day for me being come up watching the Yankees quite a bit, and I'm sure everybody didn't love them, but respected the Yankees during their heyday. And for them to have to officially send down Alfonso Soriano today, to many Yankee fans, that's a sad day because he was definitely a big contributor to those championship years.
Well, you know what? There comes a time whenever all of us have to go. And it's I take it back to whenever the Pirates let me go. And I was devastated. I heard that some fans were devastated too, which kind of made me feel a little better. But, it was just something that, organizations feel like they need to make moves. Obviously, the Yankees aren't shy about making moves, and they felt that was for the betterment of the ball club. And, unfortunately, it's usually for at the expense of a veteran player who's done a lot of good things for you, and there's really not a gracious way unless you try to do something in the off season.
Well, he's another one of those players that we talked about last week about how there's the importance of the strikeout. Nobody cares if you strike out anymore. And I think in an early part, when he started hitting 35, 40 home runs a year, they didn't care if he hit for average. And I think towards the end of his career, I think that's what ruined him because he's a pretty good hitter. And when Soriano started, when he could hit the ball to right field, he was a tough guy to get out. But now it's home run or nothing. And I think by the end of it, that's what hurt him. And I didn't think he knew how to correct himself.
Well, going from this last move from Wrigley to Yankee Stadium, I mean, really, Wrigley was a home run ballpark. I mean, if the wind was blowing in, it played legit. But if there was no wind, if the wind was blowing out, I mean, really, you could get Homer happy there. And with the vastness of center field and left field in Yankee Stadium, I just think he did. Like you said, he got pull happy, and they just, those balls that were going out of Wrigley weren't going out of Yankee Stadium.
Well, because I think I remember seeing a stat with him last year when he got traded to the Yankees, that he was probably second in the last total calendar year in total home runs in all of baseball. And all of a sudden this year he's got a couple, but he didn't catch fire like he normally does, and maybe the cold weather early hurt him. But there's a guy right there that in Yankee Stadium he could take a check swing and hit it out of right field. Meatball, you can't take a full swing and hit it out of there, but Soriano could take a check swing and hit it out of there.
I'm still calling BS on that, but no, you're right. After he was traded over there from the Cubs, I mean, he raked and was quietly one of the better players in the second half in all of Major League Baseball. And the thing about Soriano, too, is that, everybody made fun of him when he was in left field at Wrigley and when he first started, but he made himself into a pretty darn decent outfielder by the end of it, even considering I think he was a finalist for a Gold Glove, even one of his last years in Wrigley, which is what it is. I know that's an offensive award now.
That's one of those things. There are not many good left fielders in baseball today, and he's another one of those left fielders that if you unleash a solid 50-yard throw or 50-foot throw, you look like you're an all-star out there. Left fielders are embarrassing in baseball. I'm going to say it every show since Barry Bonds retired, since Rickey Henderson retired. Left fielders are a joke in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and I know our favorite Matt Holliday, I think last year, he was so bad. Starting a team that made it to the World Series, he was the 32nd best left fielder in baseball defensively. 32nd.
Now
and there's only 30 teams.
See, now I got to lay off the Cardinals. Now I'm headed there tomorrow to go up and do another Legends camp in St. Louis, so I can't tell any of these Cardinal stories that we normally get on the air here. Spanky, you can run right ahead with it.
Well, no, I'm not gonna attack any Cardinals either. Okay, but I am gonna mention the something that's gonna play into this. Ryan Zimmerman, third baseman or ex-third baseman with the Washington Nationals, couldn't throw it from third or first. So what they do? They moved him to left field.
These guys, they can't throw the ball 100 feet.
Now it's it's not part of their job requirements anymore. It's
the other day I was watching and God, who was it? I think it was the White Sox. I think it's Vesiano, and he's throwing a ball, and they got the cutoff position set up. The third base is ready for the cutoff, and his throw actually went offline far enough that it hit the shortstop in the foot. And I mean, it's 40 feet away from him, and the shortstop had to short hop it. That's how bad left fielders. They are embarrassing the game of baseball, and they're worried about all these other things. And we get back to talking about fundamentals. How about that being one? How about teaching our outfielders how to charge balls, how to cut the gaps off, and how to come up throwing like you really mean it?
Well, it just I think we can sit here and spend days and things that were drilled into our heads, and they were important and no longer are important nowadays. And whose fault is that? I can't blame the players. I've got to look at their development systems. I've got to look at these minor leagues and all these sabermetrics, and this guy's got to play here and this guy's got to play here, and he's got to get so many at bats. Well, what about who's working with these guys? Developing them on both sides of the ball. Let's say offensively and defensively.
We're old timers. We're saying this. It was nice last night. MLB had a show on with Costas, and they had Michael Young on as the panelist. And he came right out and said, and he just retired this year. Now he came right out and said, he goes, it is flat out embarrassing to watch the fundamentals of some major league teams. Now this guy wouldn't say shit if he had a mouthful. This guy's coming right out, and he's very quiet, but he comes out and says that his first line of the show. It's embarrassing the fundamentals of Major League Baseball teams right now. And you know why? And I think it goes back to what we say: who's teaching? You're coming up through the minor leagues. You got guys that haven't been farther than Double-A. These are the guys that are teaching these young prospects, these number one draft choices, how to play baseball, and I flat out think that it's wrong.
Well, you get now a number of people involved in baseball that never played the game past high school, and they interview well. They can count. They can multiply, divide. They could probably even figure out.
They can design an app in an hour.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they can do spreadsheets real well on the computer, but whenever it comes down to, look, I'm gonna look at this player, and yes, he can't do that. Well, how are we gonna fix it?
Right.
And right now there's not enough of those guys.
Yeah.
You've got a whole bunch of guys that are good little soldiers that are in the minor leagues, and I'm not saying these are bad guys at all, and it's not their fault that they are out there coaching. I mean, hey, people have to provide for their families, but you have a limited amount of experience that are teaching ththese kids. And I mean, how are you going to learn from a guy that really never made it past A ball and has been let's say a high school coach, and then all of a sudden he's got a buddy that's into the front office and say, hey, look, we need you in rookie ball. Well, yeah, I coach 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I'm going to teach this 18-year-old how to be a man. I'm going to teach him, okay, what he needs to do to be successful to go to the next level. And now, if I've never been to the next level, how am I going to be able to teach him that?
Yeah, as I always say, if I'm going to go to the moon, I want to talk to somebody that's walked on it. I don't want to talk to somebody that's written a book or read a book about it or watched a video. I want somebody that's walked on that bitch, so I make sure I know what I'm doing when I get there. Another move the Yankees made, they made a trade and got Brandon McCarthy from the Diamondbacks, and they traded Nuno for him. Nuno was having kind of a rough year over there. So is this a trade? McCarthy's been successful before. I guess he's got the highest ERA among starters this year. Is a change of scenery the possibility of hope that's going to help Brandon McCarthy and maybe help the Yankees, seeing now that they've lost Sabathia for the whole year?
Sorry, Spank. But yeah, it's a basic, straight up change of scenery deal. These I think McCarthy was 3-10 with a really high ERA. Nuno pitched well in his last game, but other than that, had been subpar all season long. It's a move for a move. The Yankees shockingly don't have a lefty in that rotation anymore, so they traded their only lefty. So maybe that's something they're going to have to look to get with Sabathia being out.
Pointer.
Yeah, I got my spikes lined up. You know what? 2 starts ago, this Nuno, he went 5 1/3. The first time all year he went 5 1/3 and got the win. He was player of the game because he went 5 1/3 innings.
Wow.
Baseball is a joke in some of its stages right now, gentlemen. And I'll tell you what, it's too bad I'm coming on 55, but there's a lot of 40-year-olds thinking about getting their spikes back on right now.
Johnny Damon's one. He wants a piece of that porch.
I can't disagree with Johnny Damon. I think what he said is absolutely right on. I think he'd come back and he would be one of the leaders in hitting.
Sure. I mean, hey, the guy's always been in fabulous shape. Why not? If his retired life hasn't agreed with him, go ahead and suit up. Heck, if I'm an organization that's looking for some veteran leadership, I'm going to give him a shot. Hey, Johnny, what do you got? You got anything in the tank? If not, hey, what am I wasting here?
It's kind of funny, Spank, that me and you retired in the era that if we had an extra pizza and 2 6-packs of beer, we retired successfully. Johnny Damon's probably got $150 million. He's got a mansion over there in Orlando, great wife, great family, and cannot wait to come back and get back in the game.
Well, that's, again...
How do you not have a successful retirement when you have $150 million in the bank?
Well, that's a topic for discussion in another forum, and it may have to do with something else that I'm not really quite sure of, and I'm supposing a whole lot of stuff here, but anybody that can read between the lines, it's probably not baseball related. I just want to throw that out there.
All right, I'm going to let you go on that one. We did have another big trade during the week. The Oakland A's went out and got Jeff Samardzija and Hamels from the Chicago Cubs, and I don't know how great of a trade it is. Both of those guys, lifetime, Samardzija's 31-42, so he's 11 games under 500. Hamels is 57-64, so he's 7 games under 500. Is that a great trade that you're trading for guys that are below 500 that don't know how to win? You're going to count on them to win the big games down the stretch.
I gotta like to think that Samardzija's only pitched in that cracker box at Wrigley. I'd like to think that pitching in the Oakland Coliseum is going to help him out a little bit. I would tend to think, Hamels pitched in Colorado.
Right.
With him, Colorado, Wrigley, and now go to Oakland Coliseum. I think it's going to help these guys. What Oakland's doing is they're getting 2 guys, veteran guys, that are going to go out there every 5th day. And right now, that's one of the prerequisites of being a starting pitcher. You don't have to be good. You just have to go out there every 5th day. You have to go out there and with 12 or 13 relievers on each team, go out there and pitch 5 innings. And I think that's what they're banking on. I don't think that the Cubs were deep enough in the bullpen. They were looking for these guys to go out there and be deeper or go deeper in the game. I don't know if they were capable or not, but I personally think it's a good trade. They gave up Dan Straley, who's a guy that's been up and down, good stuff, but pretty much not ready.
Looks like a nervous Nelly to me. That looks like his
problem. And a prospect, and supposed to be a heck of a player, but prospect doesn't mean shit to me. Prospect he's a guy that hadn't pissed in a big league toilet yet. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, everybody's a prospect, but now you get to the big leagues and now you start doing something good. Okay, now you're a big leaguer. So trading a minor leaguer, it doesn't mean squat to me. So, for me, I really like the trade that Oakland made instantly. I mean, they just become a very deep starting pitching, and we all know, pitchers go down as the year, goes on. They get Tommy Malone, who they sent to AAA. And to me, Tommy Malone's a pretty good big league pitcher, and now he's in AAA. So they've got some depth, and to me, that works.
Yeah, I looking at the deal, they get 2 guys that are just going to solidify the back end of that rotation. When Jesse Chavez, who's having a hell of a year, is your 5th starter now, that's pretty good. And I think, they gave up, like I said, they gave up their number 1 prospect. But like Spake said, these guys haven't played a single minute in the big league, so it's hard to tell. The only thing about Jason Hamel is that he's good in the National League, and he was with the Orioles. He was decent there, but he's not as good. He's going over the American League.
He was with the Rays, too, wasn't he?
He started out with the Rays, I think, yes, and he was in one of those deals that they sent someplace. I can't remember which one it was, but you go over to the American League, it's going to be he's not facing a pitcher hitting. He has to face an extra bat, and a guy like Straley's going to benefit coming over to the National League and maybe getting to face some of that. Too bad he doesn't get to face his own team, but.
All right, we're gonna go to a break right now, but I want to talk about that when we come back because you talk about teams that rebuild. And what Samardzija 29, Hamels is 31. Are they too old to not rebuild with? And the fact that they trade and the number one prospect they get is a shortstop, and supposedly the Cubs' number one player right now is Starlin Castro, who is a shortstop. Is he the next one traded? All right, right now we're going to go to a little bit of a break, and we're going to go to the meatball, and he's going to update us with the scores in Major League Baseball for today.
All right, guys, let's take a look around the Major League Baseball as it happened today. Starting the National League. The Pirates beat the Phillies 6-2. Jeff Locke gave up 2 runs and 1 earned on only 3 hits over 8 to get the win as the Pirates completed their first series sweep of the season. A.J. Burnett gave up 3 runs in 7 innings in his return to Pittsburgh. Marlon Byrd hit his 18th home run in the loss. Arizona 3, Atlanta 1. Wade Miley got his first win since May, and Paul Goldschmidt homered as the Diamondbacks end the Braves' 9-game winning streak. Alex Wood only gave up 2 runs over 3 hits over 7 innings, but it wasn't good enough to beat the D-backs. Cincinnati 4, Milwaukee 2. Jay Bruce broke out of his 0-for-26 slump by crushing a tie-breaking homer in the 8th to give the Reds the win. Matt Latos allowed 2 runs and 4 hits over 8 to get the victory. The Reds take 2 or 3 from the division-leading Brewers. Washington 2, Chicago Cubs 1. Ryan Zimmerman had an RBI single in the bottom of the 8th to break a 1-1 tie and give the Nats the win over the Cubs. Jordan Zimmerman didn't allow a run over 6, striking out 5. Jake Arrieta allowed a run over 4 hits and over 6 innings, and another quality start for the new Cubs ace after the trade. Miami 8, the St. Louis Cardinals 4. Henderson Alvarez went 7, allowing only 1 run and 5 hits as the Marlins took 2 or 3 from the Cardinals. Jared Saltalamacchi broke the game wide open with a 3-run homer in the 8th inning. Colton Wong returned from the disabled list and homered in his debut. San Francisco 5, San Diego 3, just went final. Tim Lincecum goes 6 1/3 with 6 Ks to win his 8th game of the season. And in the 8th inning, it's the LA Dodgers 5, Colorado Rockies 1. In the American League, Cleveland 4, KC 1. Corey Kluber was fantastic, allowing 4 hits and striking out 10 and 8 over 8 1/3 for the victory. The Indians were helped by home runs by Yan Gomes and Carlos Santana. Mike Moustakas added a solo shot in the loss for the Royals. Yankees 9, Twins 7. Hiroki Kuroda wasn't great, but was good enough to beat Ricky Nolasco and the Twins. Ellsbury homered and drove in 4. Both 40-year-olds, Ichiro Suzuki and Derek Jeter, had 3 hits each. Chris Colabello homered in his return from the minors, and Trevor Plouffe added a home run as well. White Sox 1, Seattle 0. Hector Noesi went 6 2/3 of scoreless baseball and struck out 5 to get the win over the Mariners. The White Sox scored their only run in the game on a wild pitch in the first inning. Baltimore 7, Boston 6 and 12. Both starters were decent, and J.J. Hardy had an RBI single in the top of the 12th to get the win for the first-place Baltimore Orioles. David Ortiz added 4 hits in a losing effort. Angels 6, Houston 1. Garrett Richards continued his great first half of the season, picking up his 10th win, going 7 1/3, 1 earned run, and 11 strikeouts. Colt Calhoun had 3 hits and homered to power the Angels' offense. 4-2, Oakland beats Toronto. Jeff Samardzija was strong in his debut with the A's, allowing 1 earned run, 4 hits over 7. As the A's sweep the struggling Jays at the Coliseum, Steve Tolleson homered in a losing cause. Tonight, you have Tampa Bay and Detroit, David Price versus Rick Porcello. And in interleague play today, you have the New York Mets 8, Texas 4. The Mets got 5 in the first, highlighted by an Anthony Recker 3-run bomb to beat the free-falling Rangers. Zach Wheeler was strong through 7 to get the win and the series win for the Mets. Robinson Chirinos, Alex Rios, and Leonis Martino homered for Texas, and Kirk Neuenhuis added 1 for the Mets. That's a look around Major League Baseball. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, at My Clubhouse Show, at Dave LaPointe, at Spanky Catches, at Mr. Meatball Says. Fellas, back to you.
And we are back on the Clubhouse Show, coming to you live from Doc's Grille here at Summerfield Crossings Golf Course. And getting back to what we were talking about, Spanky, I don't know if you've ever been with a rebuilding organization. I was a little bit with the White Sox. You might have been a little bit with the White Sox too. It seems like the Cubs have been rebuilding for the last 20 years. And who are you getting rid of? I mean, if Addison Russell is the prospect they got, who's now he's in Double-A, hitting .333 with a .439 on base percentage, which is outstanding. He's a shortstop. Does Starlin Castro, is he the next one to go? Is he the next piece you're going to trade to get something else?
Well, you got to think that Theo Epstein's got a plan there. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. I can't tell you that because I haven't played with these guys. Samardzija, Hamel, all I see is numbers. I see some things I can suppose that these guys are going to, do certain things. If I'm 29 and 31 respective ages for those two guys, that's in that rebuilding mode for me. I was with the Pirates in the late 80s, and we were rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have any veteran guys. They had traded all those veteran guys, and ended up getting Dougie Drabeck and Fish. They brought up Barry Bonds. They had brought up John Smiley. They got myself, Andy Van Slyke, Mike Dunn in a trade.
Bobby Bonilla was there.
Yeah, I mean, there's they had Bobby Bonilla. They traded him. They got him back in another trade. So there was a group of us that were all about the same age, right around the 25, 26, 27 years old, and we kind of grew up together. So, I mean, to me, 29 and 31, that's not too old if you're rebuilding. But again, that's me on the outside looking in. I've got to give the benefit to Theo Epstein. I mean, he was successful in Boston. I don't know, was that smoke and mirrors, or does the guy know what he's doing? And maybe there's another piece or two.
Or was it Terry Francona and Kevin Millar and the talent they already had there?
Sure. I mean, and that's that's part of it. But again, everybody supposedly has these 3-year and 5-year plans. Well, at the end of 3 or 5 year, it's time to put up or shut up. And
this is Theo's third year in Chicago.
Okay, well, I guess they all have 5-year plans.
If I'm going to rebuild, though, I mean, wouldn't you agree with me on this? If you're going to rebuild, you're going to do it with pitching.
Well, I would tend to think.
If I got two starters like that, I'm going to keep them. I'm going to trade everybody else I can, but I'm going to keep my pitching. That's the only way you win games in the major leagues.
Well, again, that's I'm going to defer to Theo and think that he's got a better plan here. Is there something that he hasn't told the A's to where there's something wrong with these guys physically? Is there something where there's a ligament that's about ready to go? Those are the kinds of things that they're not going to be straightforward with who they're trading for. They're going to make them look as good as possible. But all of a sudden now, if Hamill and Schmarja end up getting hurt or something like that, now we're going to go, okay, well, Theo, you're a little smarter than I thought. Just you pull one over on me.
Well, yeah, and as I said, and it could be the same thing too. These guys they don't have the makeup to win that big game, and maybe you see that. And and what you're saying is absolutely correct. When you sit in a dugout, when you're in a clubhouse, if those guys got a set of brass wounds or if they're not ready for the major league level, and especially playoff level. And there's a huge difference between Division I teams and Division II teams in Major League Baseball. If you don't have that makeup, yeah, get rid of them and go out and get somebody else.
There's something with Theo here too, because what's interesting is that they go out and they get this top prospect from the A's. He's a shortstop. They have an all-star shortstop in Starlin Castro. Their next
who voted on that?
Well, I mean, he's made the all-star team before in the past, but then their best two of the three top prospects in the minors are also shortstops. Before you add Russell, so what it does, it tells me is Castro moving to the outfield? Because their outfield, let's face it, their outfield in Chicago is a joke.
Well, I mean, one of them can move to second base, right? Darwin Barney hasn't panned out.
No, so maybe they're moving these guys around in the infield, or maybe this is a precursor to moving Starlin Castro, because that guy could probably bring a haul. So I don't know. It just surprises me that now they're 4 shortstops deep with talent in their system.
I just set a record for the longest I talked about a Cubs, and I was very nice about it. So I'm getting
Me
better.
too.
It's always funny when you have new guys that return. I'm looking at the San Francisco Giants getting Brandon Belt back. The Tampa Bay Rays, Logan Forsythe has had a great couple of weeks, and all of a sudden there's that one piece of the puzzle that wasn't working earlier that's playing some mighty fine Major League Baseball. At a time during the year, I thought Logan Forsythe was the worst Major League Baseball player I've ever seen, and now he's found it. Joe's gotten his head, somehow relaxed him. He's playing pretty good baseball, going deep straightaway center field. I didn't think he had that power, but as a manager, when these things happen, when that one clog finally starts working, the whole team oils up and you start playing better baseball.
Well, it just they were playing so bad that you could almost think that they had to get better. There's no way they could be any worse. I think some of it is just they've got to get healthier. But adding anybody that does anything offensively for that club has got to boost and just let the other guys relax. I mean, I've been on teams where you've got good players. In 1986, when I was with the Cardinals, just off of 85 World Series, 86, we stunk. It's the same, basically the same club, and actually added on a couple pieces. But we didn't hit for crap. I remember Whitey after one of the games, and it was the first time that it was going to have a managers meeting. So after the game, we go in, and Dave Ricketts comes around and he says, "Hey, nobody get dressed." And I'm thinking, oh man, Whitey Herzog's going to chew our ass here, and this is going to be the first time for me, like Whitey. I wonder what he's going to have to say. So, I'm one of those guys that I kind of enjoyed that, and I took it serious, but I was just chuckling as much as I possibly could without actually showing it on the outside. So Whitey comes in, he goes, you know what? If you guys are going to suck, would you do it a little faster? You're messing with my fishing. And that was the end of the meeting. And I was so disappointed. but it was that same kind of situation where we knew we had a good team. You had all the pieces. You had Willie, you had Ozzie, you had Vince, you had Jack Clark, you had all these guys. But nobody was doing anything, and we just continued to sputter the whole rest of the year and didn't contend.
Well, what I think too is when little guys step up and do the job, you become much better. Like I guess in '86 you were waiting for Tom Lawless to break out and really lead that team to victory. But now with the Washington Nationals, they have a player by the name of Bryce Harper coming in. Is that a guy that is going to help them? And what I disagree, he's a great player. And I've talked to people around, and they love the guy. He's a great person, great guy in the clubhouse. But you don't come back your first day back and kind of rip the manager about his lineup.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Bryce Harper's my teammate. And I wouldn't know how to act on it because we never had to deal with that back when we played. But I tell you one thing, that 21-year-old is going to get his ears pinned back by somebody. Okay, you know what?
Namely Denard Spann.
Yeah. Well. That's the one thing is this. When you think that you're bigger than the game, okay, you need to get out. I don't care who you are, because regardless of what happens, okay, if you decide that, okay, if I'm Matty Williams, I'm gonna say, well, you know what, screw you, Bryce Harper, but sit your ass on the bench. Or you know what, Bryce Harper, I'm going to reprimand you in the paper instead of saying I got your back. When Bryce decides to pout and do that, well, you know what you're doing? You're just labeling yourself as just a complete douchebag. Okay, so that's the case. Okay, so everybody's worried about Bryce Harper's feelings. Well, guess what? You know what he did? He just alienated himself from anybody that's ever played team baseball. If you're not agitated, if you're not pissed off at Bryce Harper and you're involved in baseball, I think you're a douchebag.
Right.
Okay? So, that's just the way I feel about it. Because you know what? Bryce Harper is a spoiled little fucking brat. I'm sorry. And he may come in here right now and kick my fat ass, but I don't really give a shit.
He'll never get to you, Spanky. He'll never get to you.
Well, but I'm telling you, okay? You know what? When you're 21 years old, you don't need to go into the manager's office unless he calls you in there to chew your ass out. So shut up, put your uniform on, and play the game you're supposed to play.
And I also think that Matt Williams lost a lot of respect from his team by just letting it go. You know what? Let him say what he has to say. He's still going to be in the lineup. That's bullshit right there. He should have got sent right back to AAA after saying something like that.
Well,
but that's the way Major League Baseball is today, though. They don't take care of their own. They don't discipline these guys. They don't work fundamentals. They let them get away with everything because why? Because they're bonus babies and the scouts want them to do something? Teach them how to play baseball.
They're going to hurt them. They're going to hurt their feelings. That's what they're going to hurt their feelings.
That's what happens when you call guys up to the big leagues when they're 19. They haven't learned nothing yet.
Yeah, it's the same bullshit that we go through in life right now, where everybody needs to have a ribbon. Not everybody's special. So, you need to put in your dues. And you're talking from a guy that, like I said, I can't play for shit. And we know that.
We do know that.
And we know that.
Yeah.
And we haven't even seen it, but we know that. So it's baffling to me that a guy like Matt Williams, who always seemed to do things the right way, it allowed it to go on.
There's been a few guys in the history of baseball that have been able to come up when they're 19 years old. Ken Griffey Jr. being the last one because he was raised around a major league player. He was raised around the major league ballpark.
And when he came up, his father was on that team too.
And he knew how to play, and he knew all the rules. He knew the rules of the clubhouse. These guys just don't give a shit because they know you're not going to do anything to them, and that's a shame in baseball.
They're going to fire the man. If it comes down to it between the player and the manager, they're going to let the manager go. And that's and he just it's stupid.
I mean, I got to go a little bit on a limb anyways. The talent that the Washington Nationals have, for them to not be running away with the National League East, says that Matt Williams might not know what he's doing in the first place. But this is another reason why. You don't take care of your own clubhouse, boy, you're going to go downhill in a hurry. They have they played well since he came up and said that? I mean, the Braves have won 9 in a row before today, so that's maybe why they're in first place. But you got to go downhill when that happens. Denard Span should have taken him and put him against the wall and said, listen, you don't think I'm good enough to start in the major leagues? I got something for you.
Well, I read a stat, and I'm not up on all these starts. These stats were WAR, wins after replacement. Evidently, what wins above replacement? Okay, evidently Denard Span is third in the league.
The plus end.
Yeah.
Where's Bryce Harper on that right now? Maybe you could look that up in the break, Meatball, when we get back after we come back. But I'm sure he's got to be down. I mean, since he's come back, he's 4 for 22, 24, something like that, with 8 to 10 strikeouts. He really hasn't come back, and he's not making that difference that he should. If you're going to pamper the guy, he better come back and do some damage.
Well, and I think I don't know if it's fair or unfair that we're picking on a 21-year-old, but I can tell
it's very fair.
I can tell you this, okay? When you come out and you say that, and then 3 sentences later you state that Denard Span is probably the best center fielder in baseball defensively, but you're going to play center field, I'm not figuring where you're coming from. That's obviously talking out your ass. You haven't thought this through. Somebody needs to, like I said, if I'm LaRoche on that team, I mean, I don't know if he's the eldest guy on that team. I got to go over there and say, son, you know what? You need to just shut up and play. Okay, enough's enough. But that doesn't happen. If it's the manager doesn't do it, well, then you got to know that your teammate's going to do it. And if you know the teammates and the manager aren't going to do it, well, who the hell's going to do it? You've got your coaching staff that, they don't want to do it because they don't want to show up their manager, Matty. Well, and Matty Williams is a good guy, but I mean, if I'm one of his coaches, how do I circumvent him? I can't.
Steven Strasburg had more star power than Bryce Harper coming up through. Have you heard a word out of Steven Strasburg since he's been in the major leagues?
Yeah, it just.
If he did a radio soundbite, you wouldn't know it was him talking because you have not heard him speak, and that's the way it should be. Be seen, not heard. Your first couple. Even us, we were quiet our first couple of years in the big leagues. Hard to imagine, but I know I didn't say a word for 2 years because I was scared to death. I didn't want to be in one of those meetings.
Absolutely not. I mean, and that's the whole thing was, respect for the game, respect for the guys that have been there before you. And right now, there isn't that. I mean, and I'm sure that there's some really great young players that are playing the right way, and we're not hearing about them, which is a great thing. But, if you end up on our show, and we're dogging you. Okay, I know I'm a really good guy sometimes. Well, most of the time.
All the time.
You're a good guy all the time. And Meatball's a dick, but so what? Okay, but if we don't like you, you got to be a class A asshole. Simple as that.
On that, we're going to go to the Meatball and take a little break here. And the Meatball is going to update us on the standings. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Buck Showalter, Nelson Cruz versus John Lackey and the Boston Red Sox. We'll be right back after this from the Meatball.
All right, guys. Thank you. I do appreciate that. I guess I am kind of a prick sometimes. But let's start in the American League East. New first-place team this week is the Baltimore Orioles. They are 2 games up on the struggling Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have lost 7-10, and the Jays won 7-10, and that has flip-flopped them in the division there. Toronto 2 games back of the Orioles. In third place, 3.5 games. The Yankees are now in third. And in fourth place, hey, they climbed out of the cellar. The Rays are 9 games back. Boston is also 9 games back, but the Rays got them on a couple of percentage points. The Rays are 8-2 in their last 10 and have found their way out of the cellar. In the AL Central, Detroit still holds the lead. They are 4.5 games up on Kansas City. Cleveland's next at 6.5 back. The White Sox at 8.5 back, and in last place, the Minnesota Twins 10.5 back. Out west, the Oakland A's now have a 3.5 game lead over the Angels. They've both won 4 games in a row, keeping pace with each other. Seattle Mariners 7 games out in third place. The Rangers are in a complete free fall. They are now 17 games out of first place. And Houston lost 7 games in a row as well. They are now 20 games out of first place. Over the National League in the East, the Braves had won 9 in a row. They lost today, but they're 9 out of their last 10. That is good enough for a half-game lead over the Washington Nationals, who've won a couple in a row as well. The Marlins, third place with 6 games back. The Mets in fourth at 10 games back, and the Phillies continue to lose. They have won only 1 game in their last 10. They are now 12 games out of first place. In the Central, the Milwaukee Brewers now have a 4.5-game lead over second-place Pittsburgh. The St. Louis Cardinals are in third place, 5 games out. Cincinnati Reds are 6 games out. They had a nice week as well. The Chicago Cubs continue to suck, and they are now 12.5 games out as they lost a couple in a row. Out west, you got a first-place tie, the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers. In third place, you have the San Diego Padres. They're 10 games out. And in fourth place, the Colorado Rockies, 12 games out. And last, and probably the worst, our second worst record in baseball, you have the Arizona Diamondbacks at 13 games out of first. That's a look around the standings in your Major League Baseball as we speak today. As always, like I said, you can follow us on Twitter at My Clubhouse Show, at Dave LaPointe, at Spanky Catches, at Mr. Meatball Says. Guys, the prick sends it back to you.
We are back with the Clubhouse Show coming to you live from Doc's Grill at Summerfield Crossings Golf Course. And I don't think he said prick. I think he said dick. And I wouldn't say large dick. I would say like small Richard.
Yeah. It's, you know.
But we love you, dear. And you can't take these things personally like you cannot do in a Major League clubhouse or dugout. You cannot take things said to you personally.
Well, like I said, it's not like I went to the store and said, give me the little one. It just happens, you know.
Hey, Meatball, dick is a term of endearment from me. So, you know, that's if I didn't yell or scream, or that means I don't give a shit. So,
well, I appreciate it.
You're on the Spanky radar, which is a good place to be.
Thank you, sir.
Even though you did charge him $33 for 3 beers, that shit wasn't
I didn't.
right.
That's the Tampa Bay Rays. Speaking
of terms of endearment, we have a little bit of a brouhaha, shall we say, going on between the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox, and it comes in. And John Lackey said some things about Nelson Cruz, and he did the right thing. He said it after he pitched the game, but for John Lackey to come out, Nelson Cruz was 5 for 5, almost had the cycle, had a home run during it, and for John Lackey to come out and say the reason he did that was, well, we all know where he's been, how he's been involved with the drugs and the performance-enhancing tablets that he might have put in his system, biogenesis, whatever. No telling why he said that. You know, Lackey had 11 strikeouts and 5 in the third, but he got beat. Do you come out and say that? You know, and I do. Nelson Cruz, I watched him the other day on Intentional Talk. He seems like one of the nicer guys in baseball that you wouldn't really go out and attack him. I've never seen him do one thing on the field that would make you go out and attack him and say something. He looks like he is a professional ball player. It looks like he does his job, pays attention to his P's and Q's. Obviously, Buck Showalter is going to come out and stick up for his player, 1, because he is his player, 2, because he's a Latin American player that might have trouble expressing himself in the American English language. But this is going to go farther, and Spanky, what Buck ended up saying is you better pay attention to your own backyard before you go at somebody else. And we're trying, you know, if you try and figure out who Buck might be talking about, I got to say Big Papi is the guy that's in his sights.
Well, I've got maybe a touch different view on this. I don't think anybody really knows that Buck Showalter actually invented baseball. It wasn't
he did,
Abner Doubleday.
Yeah,
it was Buck.
And
you ask anybody in baseball, you know, who invented the game, you know, there's arguments, you know, Abner or Buck. And if you ask Buck, he invented it. He's made all the rules. He's made all the unwritten rules. So, you know, what Buck says has to be the truth. But having said that, the little bastard. I mean,
little general. Is that what you're saying?
Little general. Anyway, yeah, you know what? Why Lackey says it? You know, why talk about another guy that you're playing against? You get a beef with him. You know, settle it on the field. Why play the game?
Get him out.
You know, for the sports writers to sell their papers, and you know that they're not going to put the right slant on it. They're going to put the slant on it that's going to be able to sell their papers. You know, so there's who knows if it was out of context, in context, but it's easy. You know, John Lackey, shut up and pitch. You know, you punched out 11, you gave up 10 hits. Okay, you know what? And if Nelson Cruz got 5 of them, well, you know what? Yeah, he was a bad boy. He cheated. Okay, what degree do all players cheat? We got a saying: if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
I'm pretty sure he's been tested this year numerous times.
Oh, I would have to say. I mean, yeah. I mean, this guy, he's made a mistake. Yeah, it's no good, rotten, cheating, blah blah blah. But I mean, am I any different from him because I had a couple extra cups of players' coffee whenever I played? I mean, kind of helped me out a little bit on the day game after a night game where I
just never know what was in that coffee.
Just needed a little energy, and seemed like one of the coffee pots was just a little bit stronger than the other, and boy, that stronger coffee pot sure helped me. What's the difference? Yeah, I wouldn't hit the ball over the fence, but the same token, I was able to get out there and catch. Well, without maybe that player's copy, I wasn't able to go out there and catch. So but I was never going to go out there and talk poorly about an opposing player. If I had something to say, that I knew they were going to come to the batter's box. I was in the National League, so even if there was pitchers, and if I felt that strongly about it, I'd have a little conversation. There were times in between batting practice. If I had something to say, I'd go over and say it. If I didn't have anything to say, I'd just shut my mouth. I had a job to do. It was to try to beat the other guy's ass and not give him a reason to beat me. Okay, so having said that, now Buck needs to shut up too. Okay, you know what? Yeah. Okay, now what he's doing is he's swimming in some territory or some uncharted waters that he's now implying that somebody on that other team, okay, has taken performance-enhancing drugs, whether they have or not. It hasn't been proven. Okay, so now you're insinuating.
So you're saying that Buck was not in the piss test. He doesn't know the results.
Exactly. So guess what? If you think,
but he's Buck Showalter. He might have been.
Well, no kidding. So you know what? Just go up to Big Papi and say, you know what? I think you're a cheater. You think Buck's going to do that? No, he's going to hide behind a reporter. And I don't like that. I don't like John Lackey talking about anybody on the other team. Talk about how you gave up 11 hits and lost the game. Talk about that. Talk about how you need to make better pitches. Talk about something that you can do to help your ball club. Don't talk about Nelson Cruz. Because he took performance-enhancing drugs, that means he can't go 5 for 5. Okay, he's paid his penalty. Okay, if that's the case, everybody that's been put in jail, well, what do you do? Just shoot their ass. That's what you're saying. They're guilty for the rest of their life. Well, you know what? Whether they are or not, that's not the American way. And if you don't like it, get the hell out.
When I think about John Lackey and being a professional pitcher for a long time myself, he, in my mind, is the guy that has showed his own teammates up the most of any pitcher I've ever seen on the field when a play happens. And this guy would make faces, he would bitch, he would moan, and then I go talk to people that know him behind the scenes, and they say he's one of the greatest guys you can have in your team and takes care of the clubbies, and guys like that. That's what you go by. But this guy, the faces that he would make when his team didn't play 100% great baseball behind him, he's the guy I would have had him in the locker room saying, knock it off right now, buddy, and you're not that good. I mean, he is good. He is an all-star, but don't show my ass up on the field. Right. And I think when I think about John Lackey, that's that guy. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you notice Big Papi only comes into these conversations when the Red Sox are doing good. Red Sox are starting to get on a little bit of a, they're playing a little bit better. Big Papi's starting to hit the ball. All of a sudden now, the Yankee writers did that a few years ago. Now we're going to go after Big Papi. Why do they wait till then to get that done?
Well, I'm still trying to catch my breath from my past 2 rants, but this much I can tell you: anybody that takes this to the public level is wrong. I mean, you can't do that. It doesn't help anything. I think all of us that watch the game have heard the rumors. All right. Do you think Big Papi has ever had a piss test?
I think he's had quite a few. Yes, I do.
Okay. So has he failed any? Have you heard?
As far as I know, he has not.
Okay, then drop it.
Right.
You know what? Drop it. It's not part of the equation. Hell, I mean, it's slanderous. That's exactly what that is. Whenever you accuse somebody of something that they didn't do, and there's no truth, and you take that public, that's against the law. You get sued for shit like that. Of course, you can get sued for anything now with all these asshole lawyers, but that's besides the point.
It's what it is. It's Bush League, and what is it going to prove in the first place? What are you trying to do? Lackey, just go out and grab the ball 5 days from now, go out and pitch, and forget about it. Because now, next time you go out there, the Baltimore Orioles are really going to be trying to stick it up your ass. And now, what I learned when you said something wrong, not that I ever did, but when you said something wrong, all of a sudden they start trying to hit that ball up the middle. And now it's going to start going off your forehead. So what we're doing here, we are at the Clubhouse show, coming to you live from Doc's Grille here at the Summerfield Crossing Golf Course. We've got the All-Star picks on in the background, and as we were saying earlier, sure enough, Starlin Castro makes the All-Star team as a reserve shortstop.
Somebody's got to make it for the Cubs. I mean, who else? It might have been Samardzija if he was still in the National League, but I guess it's Castro because somebody's got to make it. So
I wonder if there's ever been a chance where the fans voted in an All-Star that was traded before the halfway part of the season, and he was in the other league. I wonder if he could come back and play for that team.
I don't know if that's the case. The only thing that I get close to that is I remember when Willie McGee got traded from St. Louis in 1990, and he still had enough at-bats to win the National League batting title, although he'd been in Oakland for the last month and a half of the season.
Wasn't there a chance he could have won both?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The interesting one that I remember in 1985, Lonnie Smith got traded to the Kansas City Royals from the St. Louis Cardinals, and either way, he was going to get the championship ring.
That happened with Benji Molina. And with the Giants and the Texas Rangers, he was on both teams that year, and also Arthur Rhodes was on Texas and St. Louis in 2011.
I've got to get a hold of Lonnie to see if did he get a championship ring and the other ring, the runner-up ring. I got to ask him next time I see him.
Did he get a winner's share and a loser's share?
No, I did talk to him about that, and he just got the full share from Kansas City.
Okay.
So he didn't have to get anything from St. Louis, and I guess the way you've been in those meetings before, those are someday we'll talk about those. Those are beautiful. But I guess Kansas City and St. Louis had talked, the general managers or the Players Association, the player reps would be the guys who would have to talk about that. So they did talk, and Lonnie got a full share from Kansas City and nothing from St. Louis. That'd be neat. Why don't we go back and get a couple of them shares?
Yeah, I was going to say double dip. I like that.
I'm sure, nowadays you could probably get a lawyer to fight your, I was with both teams. I should have got something from both. And as you said earlier, boy, we can get sued for a lot of things, can't we?
Oh, without a doubt.
All right, we're going to take a little break here, go to the meatball. He is going to give us a little rundown on the statistics, the league leaders, and all what's going on with that part of Major League Baseball. We'll be back in a minute after the meatball tunes you up and gives you that full wealth of knowledge that he is known to have. Meatball?
Who knows that I have it? I don't know where that came from. Okay, your stat leaders as of Sunday morning. I put these down this morning. Your American League average leader is Jose Altuve, just named to the All-Star team. He hit in .338. Adrian Beltre is second, .335. Victor Martinez third at .328. I think all three of those guys just made the team to go to Minnesota. Your home run leaders are our good buddy Nelson Cruz we're just talking about. He has 27. Jose Abreu is tied with him as well with 27. And Edwin Encarnacion with 26. Your RBI leaders, Edwin Encarnacion with 70. Nelson Cruz with 70. And Jose Abreu third with 69. Your wins leader in the American League, Masahiro Tanaka, still leading. He has 12 wins. Tigers' Rick Porcello is second with 11. And a three-way tie for third, Felix Hernandez, Mark Burley, and Max Scherzer all have 10. Your ERA leader in the American League, Felix Hernandez, has 2.11, Masahiro Tanaka 2.27, and Scott Kazmir in third, 2.53. Save leader in the American League, Fernando Rodney with 25. Second place, Greg Holland, 23. Over in the National League, Spanky's favorite player on his fantasy team, Troy Tulowitzki, leading the league in hitting with 350. Jonathan Lucroy in second with 333, and Andrew McCutcheon at 322. Your home run leader, Giancarlo Stanton, has 21. Troy Tulowitzki has 18. And a three-way tie for third, Marlon Byrd, Justin Upton, and Todd Frazier have 17, although Marlon Byrd did hit one today, so that is 18 for him as well. RBI leaders, Giancarlo Stanton has 62, Justin Morneau in second with 59, Paul Goldschmidt has 56. Your wins leader, three-way tie in the National League, Adam Wainwright, Zach Greinke, and Alfredo Simon of the Reds all have 11. Adam Wainwright leads in ERA, 1.89. Johnny Cueto with 1.99. And Julio Teheran of the Braves, 2.29. Your save leaders, your Francisco Rodriguez and Craig Kimbrell, both with 27. Your team stat leaders, Oakland still leads the major league in runs with 435. Colorado has the highest average at 282. The Washington Nationals lead in ERA at 305. And the Tampa Bay Rays lead in strikeouts at 784. That's a look at your stat leaders, guys. I'm going to send it right back to you.
And we are back in the Clubhouse show. Come to you live from Doc's Grille here at Summerfield Crossing Golf Course. And another fine job, Meatball. You're it. You know that? I'm feeling kind of bad the way Spanky went off on you earlier. And sometimes I go home and I can't sleep when that happens.
It's like, it just comes natural to me, I guess. It's like watching Picasso paint.
One of the favorite things we talk about on this show, besides the injury report, which we'll have coming up later on in one of the breaks, is instant replay. It never leaves us, Spanky. This is such a bad thing for baseball. And I got a little rant coming later between Verducci and Tom Verducci and Brian Kenny, but this instant replay has got to go. It's taken away from baseball. It's taken away from the integrity of the umpires. It's taken away from the integrity of the game. And I don't know what kind of vote they got to get through. I don't know how much money they'll lose from television, but instant replay has got to go.
Well, I think it started off that, all the purists didn't like it, okay? And then all the people in baseball, especially the managers, hey, you know what, it might be good for us, let's give it a shot. There's been some times whenever it's worked, it's been dysfunctional at best. It's created all kinds of trouble. I don't think it's as understood as it could be. I'm going to read a quote here by Joey Bats, Jose Batista, that he mentioned about a play at the plate that just got reviewed, and I'm not sure. And I'll read it first, and I'm not sure that the players understand the whole entire process. But here it says, Bautista, who saw the play develop while standing at second place, wasn't pleased with the call and said this about the replay system post-game. And evidently he had a little junior temper tantrum, whenever he was in the dugout. And, at the bottom of this quote, of course, the sports writer said he may be fined for the small outburst. Screw you, sports writer. But anyway, Norris missed Cabrera by a good foot or two, he said. I don't really know which replay they were looking at, but clearly they must have had a different video feed from the one that we had. It's pretty frustrating for you to battle as a team, keep the game close, for our pitchers to be doing what they're doing, for us to keep grinding through games and facing some tough pitching, and somehow be able to tie the game in the eighth inning, and it all goes down the drain because somebody first, initially, made a bad call to begin with, so he just dumped on the home plate umpire. Hey, you know what? We all have opinions, okay? No problem with that. And he continues. And then it gets upheld by God knows who in some room in New York, supposedly. Okay, I think we mentioned something about that last week. He continues, this whole replay thing has become a joke in my eyes. I think they should just ban it. They should just get rid of it. I don't really understand the purpose of it, but getting the right call on the field is not the purpose. That's pretty obvious and evident. I don't know what kind of agenda the people that are doing the replays are on, what their plan is, what their purpose is, who they're looking after. But obviously getting the right call on the field is not what they're doing. Okay, so here you got one of the premier players that's, he doesn't understand it. He has no idea who's making the calls in New York. I didn't know who was making the calls in New York, and I was a coach in spring training whenever they were discussing the whole idea of who was going to be, making calls, what was the process, who was going to do what, okay? And so I was under the impression of just somebody, we found out that there are umpires that are doing it. That are doing the replay in New York. Well, here's a major league player that doesn't even know who's doing any of the replay officiating at all. He's thinking that it's the wizard behind the curtain, that's pulling the levers and pushing the buttons. So it's gotten to the point now where I think everybody's pretty much fed up with it.
First of all, let's challenge the press. Now, the press can find this out. Anybody can figure out that one umpire crew that's not working that day, that's in New York, might have had the series before, might have the next series coming up. That umpire crew is the one that's in the box in New York going over these instant replays. Let's find out who they are.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's put a name behind their call.
Here, I got a really important word for this, okay? And this will take care of a lot of things. Transparency. Okay? Let's find out exactly who's making the calls. I want to know, okay, what umpire or what group of umpires, are they sitting in the same room? Are they sitting there, sleeping? How are they monitoring, 15 games? I mean, you tell me who's watching what. Who is on their off day, okay, that should be enjoying themselves, is having to watch TV, okay, to possibly overturn it. Are they not bored to death? Are they not pissed off that they have to do this? Those are the kinds of things that, I want to know. I want some answers.
Not to mention the fact that the crew that's doing it, all these Major League umpiring crews now do not have 4 major veterans in their crew. They have 1, maybe 2, and then they have a couple of young guys. So, as you said, you just brought up a great point about instant replay. What if there's a couple instant replays going on at once? What if there's 4 going on at once? And now you've got 1 umpire for each television that's got to go make that call and get on the horn and call those umpires on the field and say, this is what I saw?
Yeah, and one of them is Angel Hernandez.
And I'm Joe Rookie telling Angel Hernandez, you just missed the call. You blatantly missed the call that determined the outcome of that game. I'm the rookie telling Angel that you were wrong.
Yeah,
you're right. That transparency thing, we should have the right to know who's making these calls, who's overturning, how much experience they have, and what exactly are they looking at. We said earlier, way back when the show began, I'm sure a game between Oakland and Toronto in Oakland, who doesn't have a large television following, do they have the same coverage, the same amount of TVs as the Yankees and Red Sox do for Sunday Night Baseball?
No, most games, at least the smaller games, the games that I've done, they use 6 cameras. I would tend to think that there's a dozen cameras at Fenway, at Yankee Stadium. I mean, there's got to be so many different cameras that are in these places, and it's just the coverage-wise, yeah. I mean, is it fair to one side and not the other? And again, for me, too many questions and not enough answers, and they're not adding up.
I'm not trying to be the ultimate purist. I'm not trying to be the greatest old-timer of all time. Baseball wasn't broken. We did not need instant replay. Part of the game is the umpire. Part of the game is the spontaneous reaction of an umpire and the players involved and the manager that's going to come out and argue. That's a great part of our American pastime. It needs to get back in there. Today, Rich Renteria went out to argue a call with the Nationals, and the first baseman for the Nationals came in and got a ball that was borderline on the baseline. And they said that that's not a reviewable instant replay. Fair or foul is not reviewable. And Rich Renteria came out and he said he didn't know if he could argue it or not. And Bob Carpenter, the announcer for the Nationals, said, this is when they call back in and say, we don't know what the call is, you tell us. And that's not right either. That some of the umpires don't even know the rules of what they're supposed to look for.
I think the ruling in what I've seen with fair or foul, and I heard it on a game one time, is that if it's in front of if it's first base bag on the infield, it is not reviewable. If it's in the outfield, a play fair or foul in the outfield, something like that, that is a reviewable play. But anything first base to home inside is not reviewable.
So that fair or foul ball before first base is not as important as that foul ball that goes beyond first base.
Apparently, according to the replay guys,
what kind of a rule is that? There's a big discrepancy of fairness of the game. You're going to argue a fair or foul home run. That's the same thing, fair or foul. Why is that play? They had runs that could have scored. That should be a reviewable play because they got it wrong. They didn't. If you check the replay, that ball was foul.
Well, I can tell you, this right here. I've been involved in some plays, bunts down the line, and depending on where you're playing, let's just say that there's a little gamesmanship by the grounds crew. You know where the ball's going to go. It's either going to go fair or if it's going to go foul. And there are enough times that I've gone and I knew which way the ball was going to go, and I picked up the ball really fast, and it was close. and the umpires made a call, and I've gotten a couple calls, and are the calls I didn't get. Okay, but I tell you, that's not fair in itself. I think I just got bit by a snake.
Yeah, some things aren't fair. I think there's like red ants crawling around underneath our table.
So anyway, I mean, it's just not. It's not fair to be able to differentiate. A foul ball is a foul ball. A fair ball is a fair ball. As simple as that. I mean, why is one reviewable and one not?
And it's just not right. Like I said, this replay has been a joke since day one. There's been arguments. There's been things overturned that blatantly we see the same replay and it gets overturned. And why did you make that call? And there's never an explanation needed to it. The big thing, you can't argue what they see.
Well, you know what? And I tell you, I watched the replay of the play that Joey Bats was arguing. Okay, and I saw two different angles, and one of the angles was it was inconclusive, and then I saw the other angle, and he exaggerated. He didn't miss by a foot or two, but he missed by at least 6 inches. I mean, it was plain as could be, and have the umpire, whoever I don't know, did he only have one angle? I don't know, did he have as many angles as we saw later on the internet? I mean, and to me, if you saw both of those angles, it was pretty obvious. The one, I can't overturn it. The second one, that guy's safe, easy.
Yeah.
And then, and that's right there. Like I said, transparency. Let's get, let's make this, a little bit more out in the open here, and not so much of the, the secret stuff.
Back into the world of me, you, and the meatball. Sometimes 6 inches is a foot.
Yeah, I've made a living. I've made a living convincing people that this is 9.5 inches.
All right, we are the Clubhouse Show. We are going to take a little break here. We're going to send it over to the meatball, and he's going to go over the upcoming schedule. And there's a week left before the All-Star break, and maybe some teams can have the schedule work to their favor and get in first place by the break. Meatball, we're coming at you, brother.
All right, guys, here we go. We're going to start in the American League, and on Monday, the Yankees are going to head to Cleveland. The White Sox are in Fenway to face the Red Sox. The Royals are at the Tampa Bay Rays. The Astros are in Arlington to take on the Rangers. Toronto heads west to face the Angels, and Minnesota is in Seattle. And over in the National League, the Braves are in Queens. They're going to face the Mets. Philly's at Milwaukee. Pittsburgh starts a 4-game series in St. Louis. San Diego heads to Colorado. Miami's in the desert taking on the Diamondbacks, and the Cubs are in Cincinnati. In interleague play, the Orioles are across the street in D.C. to take on the Nationals, and the Giants get across the bay to face the A's. The only other matchup gets underway on Tuesday as the first-place Dodgers head to Detroit to take on the first-place Tigers and a potential playoff preview. Later in the week, the A's and the Giants and the Nationals and the Orioles trade places in back-to-back home-and-home 2-game series. In the American League, the Yankees head to the Baltimore Orioles. The White Sox are in Cleveland. The Blue Jays head to St. Pete to play the Rays. The Angels are at the Rangers. Detroit is at KC. The Red Sox are in Houston, and Oakland is at Seattle. In the National League, the Braves are at the Cubs. The Nationals are in Philly. Pittsburgh battles the Reds in Cincinnati. The Marlins are at the Mets. St. Louis is in Milwaukee. The Padres are at the Dodgers, and Arizona is at the Giants. And interleague play, the old rivalry renewed. The Twins are in Colorado to face the Rockies. Then it's time for a break, and an entire MLB heads to Target Field for the All-Star Game weekend. Sunday, the best and the brightest prospects in MLB will battle each other in the Futures Game. Then you get the local national celebrities and some athletes jumping up together to play in that Taco Bell celebrity softball game that's always fun to watch. Monday is the workout day for the media and the home run derby at night. Then on Tuesday, home field advantage is on the line as the American League battles the National League in the 85th Midsummer Classic. That's a look at the upcoming schedule. Like I said, you can always follow us at My Clubhouse Show, at Dave LaPointe, at Spanky Catches, at Mr. Meatball Says on Twitter. Guys, back to you.
And we are back here at the Clubhouse Show. Dave LaPointe, Mike LaValliere, Chris Stansbury, the Meatball, giving it to you live just like you're sitting in that clubhouse or you're at a bar like we are just having a few cocktails talking about the game. Fernando and Julio are back with us. They're pushing all the right buttons to make sure we get on. We got a kind of a rowdy, raucous crowd here at the at Doc's Grille here at Summerfield Crossings. And in lieu of the great days of Harry Carey and one of our big fans out there, we're going to say hi to Heather Fox Russell, who is listening to us over the internet right now, and we wanted to get a shout out to her and and say thank you for listening to us. All of these things we're talking about. Now, I made a comment on Twitter this morning, actually, that who's going to be the next commissioner of baseball? Is it going to be Brian Kenny or is it going to be Tom Verducci? And here's where baseball, the MLB network, has the power of the microphone, the power of airtime to put these guys in a limelight where neither one has ever stepped foot in a clubhouse, neither one has ever stepped foot in a dugout, but they have the power to change the game. And what they're doing right now in their respective areas that they cover, Brian Kenny with sabermetrics going on all kinds of stats that are useless once the game begins, and Tom Verducci, who's been a proponent of the collision rule, of replay. Now he wants to get a kind of like a pitch limit time clock into speeding up the play of the game. And there's different things. Spanky, I'm going to go out and say it. If you have not been in that dugout, if you have not strapped it on, if you have not played the game, you have no idea how hard this game is to play. And you don't need a guy up there that has never played it, that's just writing about it. He should not have any say, and he should not have the power to influence the fans or the people that are, the other people that are watching the games and change the rules of baseball, because as we're seeing right now, these rules right now are a mess. And one being the collision at home place, the catchers don't know what to do, and replay. So far, these two rules are a mess, and they're messing up baseball.
Well, I mean, it goes without saying that, I mean, both those guys are freaking weenies. Okay, I don't know how, nicer I can put it. Okay, I can be a lot worse than that. Okay, but guess what? You know what, guys? Stick to what you know. Okay, write your columns. Okay, but stop trying to dictate policy, as let's call it. Okay, when you want to change things, why do you want to change them? Because what? Because it irritates your bowels? I don't really give a shit, Verducci. You're a weenie. That whole thing about the collision at the plate, you're a weenie. Okay? You know what? You probably get cut from a Little League team. I feel bad for you. You have something, that maybe you couldn't catch. You couldn't fit it inside of a cup. I don't know what. The thimble's too small. But guess what? You can't dictate if you never know what the hell you're doing. Okay? And thinking about, knowing what you're doing by watching TV, it's bullshit. Because there's a whole lot of folks out there that think they know about what's going on. And there's a lot of smart folks that do watch TV and they understand. But they don't understand the ins and the outs of the game. And the only way you can do that is by having played it or coached it or been around it very closely. And very closely isn't behind a camera.
And it goes back to the other people that are running baseball in the organizations. The 17, 18, or 19 general managers and the 18 or 19 or 20 director of player development that have never put a uniform on, that don't know exactly what's going on in the dugout. I'm sorry if I'm old-fashioned. I've played this game for a long time. I've been in professional baseball for over 35 years. There's a lot of things that you do for a reason, that you do for a purpose. There's a reason that we trained fundamentally to make these plays and make these things happen. There's a reason we teach our kids how to do this. Just because you're upset with it, don't come in and change it. And it's just not fair that they have the power. Now, I'm not saying they're probably – am I going to blame Verducci and Brian Kenny personally? No, they're getting instructions from the MLB network to go ahead and run a show and get the people involved and see what they want to say. But MLB baseball, who is that? That's TV production. That's selling advertising for the television. They're going to try and sell advertising. Yeah, they're going to try and make their money, but don't ruin the game in the meantime. Why don't we go out and interview players and see what they really think? Why don't we have an open invitation to do a survey from players and see, do they want to change these things?
Well, see, what's happened now is slowly but surely they have weeded out the baseball guys. The lifers, the Don Zimmers of the world, you're not going to find any of those. Zim, God rest his soul, he's going to be a fossil. You and I are already on our way to being fossilized. Okay, I've sent my resume out to every team looking for a job. I think I've got a pretty good idea about baseball. I can't get a job in baseball right now. You know why? Because I don't believe, in the sabermetrics to the point where it's gonna be a determining factor of how I'm going to coach. I'm going to coach to get my players better. Simple as that. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to be able to give them the experience that I've had. Hey, listen, when you're in this situation, this is what I did. Okay? It's not, hey, when you're in this situation, this is what I would do. Well, you know what? You know that's not experience. That's not passing on. That's just giving you an idea. Okay? I'm giving you a way to fix something. Okay, there's a big, huge difference there, and there's so many guys that are hired because you know what? They don't think. Okay, they're yes men. They're guys, okay, that are very good professional people, but these are guys that don't have the experience. And what's happened now is these non-baseball guys that have come from other sports and to where these formulas have worked, they have made these formulas work. And if you can mess with numbers, you can make anything look good. Well, except maybe meatball and meat.
I think it's all fantasy baseball.
But whenever it comes down to it, okay, without enough baseball guys, these what I call corporate guys are going to take over the game. And you know what? Before you know it, we won't recognize anything. And I'm going to go out there in 25 years, and I may not make it 25 years. Okay, the game is not going to be anywhere close to even where it is now, and we're getting upset with it now. What's going to happen whenever we're 85? Hell, I'm going to have to wear 2 pairs of Depends.
Well, when I look at it, and back to what you said about where are the players and all of this, and pulling them, the problem that I have as a fan watching this, when you make a rule change in Major League Baseball, who's making the rule change? It's at the owners' meetings, okay? So you've got 30 suits sitting in a room who have obviously made their money selling land, whatever the fuck they sold, who cares? Whatever they made their money on, they're not baseball guys. They're money guys. And so they're making these rule changes based on what they can do to make the almighty dollar a little bit better. In my opinion, if you want to do it, at least let the general managers who have at least a pulse on what's going on in baseball, for the most part, make the rule changes and put it to a vote. Why can't there be a 20-person, each club gets its one representative on the thing, and they make the rule changes and the players? I guarantee you, instant replay would have gone down 28-2 with Buster Posey being the only fucking person probably voting for it.
Well, the 4 or 5 years ago when Bud Selig put in this subcommittee involving Tony La Russa, Joe Torre, I think Sandy Alderson there was a few managers, there was a few general managers that were assigned to how are we going to make baseball better. And that's when all of these things came up in the first place. And I'm sure if you took Tony La Russa and Joe Torre when they were managing and said, what do you want to change about the game? They're going to say nothing. But all of a sudden, these guys they're on the hook. They're going to get hired by Major League Baseball. And I respect both of those guys, but who's paying their paycheck right now? MLB is paying their paycheck, so therefore we're going to tell you what we want. You're going to go ahead and sell it. And back when remember when Frank Robinson was in charge of the fines and stuff that went out, there was an old school solid baseball player. He made decisions that made sense and everybody respected it. Right now, I'm not sure any of the decisions that are coming forward, who are they checking with? Who's the oldest managers in baseball right now? Bruce Bochy's probably got the longest time of service now since Leland left.
Socha, maybe the longest tenured.
Socha and Bochy. I mean, you don't think of them as the dinosaurs you're talking about, but they've been managing now for 20 years apiece. I think Bochy's 23 years now. Yeah, let's talk to them first. And Bochy is the manager of the catcher that they changed this rule just for him. Now, is he going to go agree with that? Yeah, he's going to protect Buster Posey because that's his meal ticket to the next couple of playoffs. But if he's on another team, do you think he votes for that rule?
No.
Bochy was a hardcore player. Socha was the best in the world at blocking the plate, and Socha loved collisions. I mean, they said he was a professional at it. He knew how to do it better than anybody. You think he voted and really wanted that to leave the game?
Oh, hell no. And if he did, well, you know what, then he's changed. I can't see, either of those guys, voting for it. Who voted for it? That's a.
We'll never know. Transparency.
Again, who was it? Was it, was it the guy that is in charge of all these sabermetrics for catchers? Did he, come up with this formula to where, if we take this out, then the numbers are going to get better and blah, 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 blah. It's mind-boggling that something even had to be addressed other than here's my deal, and I think I've mentioned it before. This is how I'm going to address the situation. Okay, we're going to try to take the cheap shots out. Okay, from either side. Cheap shots, catcher, if you're, sticking your leg out as the guy goes by and you don't have the ball, whatever it is, you're gone. Okay, runner. Okay, if the catcher's, out of the way, okay, and you go out of your way to hit him, you're gone. That's what you tell the umpires. That's it. That's it. Nothing else had to have been said. But instead, now what do we got? We've got this ambiguous rule that's already been changed once. Who knows how many times it's going to be changed again?
And how many guys have actually been really, I know two names off the top of my head that I can think of guys that have been seriously injured in a collision. Ray Fosse in the All-Star game and Buster Posey at the plate. And so it's and I'm sure that there's other injuries, but as far as these guys that you see out there with these huge names, that's it.
The Ray Fosse injury, and Pete Rose collided with him at the All-Star game. We've all seen it. We all, one of the greatest plays we've ever seen. That it drew attention to baseball at the time. It's like fighting in hockey. But did you know that Pete Rose missed like 23 games after that? Ray Fosse didn't miss a game. And Pete Rose lost the batting title that year because of that collision. Did Pete Rose want that collision rule gone?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Meatball, I'm going to have to call you on this. I know I wasn't a big name. I missed 3.5 months in 1989. Play at the plate. I did everything perfectly. I just had my foot on, exactly where it needed to be. The slide came in. It was not the cleanest of slides. Took my knee out. Okay. Did I want the rule changed? Hell no. Was I pissed off that I missed 3.5 months? Hell yeah, I was pissed off. But you know what? It was my job. It was part of the thing. It's the guy that goes out there, whatever, the taxi driver that has to, dodge all these jackasses behind, the wheel. I mean, that's part of the job description. The iron worker that goes up, 100 floors. I mean, the carpenter, the electrician, all of these guys. I mean, that's your job description. If you don't like it, then you go do something else. Okay, and that's just the way it is. And that rule didn't have to be changed.
No.
And that's the thing. And I get the shit knocked out of me. Mike Davis, came to it was actually pretty funny. We're it wasn't funny at the time, but we're in Three River Stadium, and Mike Davis was playing for the Dodgers, and it was a base hit to center field. Andy Van Slyke comes up throwing. Davis is on second, throws up the line. I catch it and just kind of turtle as much as I can. And Mike Davis was about, I don't know, maybe 6'1", 6'2", 180 pounds that could run.
Yep.
I mean, and he knocked the piss out of me. Well, I would go ass over tea kettle and, fall down, hold on to the ball. And so I'm walking back to the dugout. And I might not be walking as straight as I possibly could have been because our trainer comes out. He never came out whenever I got hit. He just knew he had no problem. Well, he comes out and he's got a towel. And he goes, "You all right?" And I go, "I don't know. Am I all right?" Well, he takes the towel and he rubs my ear, and it's just nothing but blood. And then he wipes my mouth, and it's nothing but blood. And then "Am I all right?" And he goes, "How do you feel?" I go, "I felt better." And but that was just part of the gig. I end up, just got cut by his helmet. In the mouth and in the ear, and had a headache and probably concussed and all the rest of it, and went out there for the next inning. But that's just the way it was. I mean, if you're trying to dodge contact,
you're in trouble.
You know what? You're gonna get hurt. Go find something else to do.
Did Mike Davis say anything to you after the play?
No, nothing at all. Put it this way: if he did, my ears are ringing so much I didn't hear a word. So, hell, who knows where I was walking? All I know is Biggie grabbed that towel and it was just bright red, and I was just like, wow, this is not good.
And I know that it's changed the game how we watch it too. I know I sent you a message this week. There was the play at the plate with Buster Posey, and he's standing behind the batter's line, and he's leaning over with his ass out, and he just swipes at the guy coming home plate. And it looked like the most awkward. And I've never, even back in the day when I played in Little League, I've never caught a day in my life. But he, one of these, and it looked like he was doing a ballet move. It was the most embarrassing play that I've watched a catcher try to make a tag at the plate.
Well, if I'm a little fly on the wall in the San Francisco Giants clubhouse, I would say that Buster Posey has lost a lot of respect from his teammates. We are the Clubhouse Show. We are coming to you live from Doc's Grill here at the Summerfield Crossing Golf Course. We're going to send it over to the Meatball now, and he's going to give us our favorite subject of the week, the injury report. Meatball, right at you.
Well, for once, fellas, the injury report this week is not as long as it usually is, but we can stretch it out a little bit as we need to. So, taking a look at the injuries and transactions, placed on the disabled list this week, Derek Dietrich with the Miami Marlins has a strained right wrist. He went on the DL. Joe Mauer, right before the All-Star game, he has an oblique strain. He's going to be out for a little bit. Everett Cabrera, another guy from the Biogenesis days, he's got a hammy strain. Evan Gattis has a back injury. He's going to be back probably right after the All-Star break. They put him on the DL anyway. Dexter Fowler has a back strain. Yunel Escobar of the Rays has a right shoulder injury. Julie Chassin also has another shoulder issue. Michael Bourne strained his hamstring. And Jonathan Neese, interesting reason that he went on the disabled list, is called a decrease in stuff. They said something isn't right. There's no injury as of yet to report. Doesn't have any pain. Doesn't have anything. He's just not right. Some of the guys that came back, we already mentioned Bryce Harper. In the scores, we mentioned Colton Wong made his return back. Taijuan Walker is back for the Seattle Mariners. Trevor Plouffe and Eduardo Nunez returning for the Minnesota Twins. Angels starter Tyler Skaggs returning. Nolan Arenado comes back off the disabled list just in time to help out the Rockies as they make their push to try to get back into it. Corey Hart and Justin Smoke are both back for the Seattle Mariners. Left-hander Brett Cecil back for Toronto. And Brandon Belt is back for the San Francisco Giants. Some of the transactions that happened, we already mentioned the trades. Cubs trade Jeff Samardzija and Jason Hamill to the A's for top prospect Addison Russell, outfield prospect Billy McKinney, and a big league starter Dan Straley. The Diamondbacks yesterday also made a trade. They trade lefty reliever Joe Thatcher and speedster outfielder Tony Campana to the Angels for 2 minor league prospects. Jair Jurgens was traded from Cincinnati to Colorado for a minor leaguer and already made a start the other day. The Pirates have claimed Yankee infielder Dean Anna off of waivers. CeCe Sabathia had a setback in his rehab, and Girardi is saying now that they are expecting him to miss the rest of the season. Jaime Garcia has another shoulder issue, will most likely need season-ending surgery, which came to the shock of Cardinals GM John Mozeliak, who's actually quite pissed off. Actually, he did not tell him that he thought he was going to need surgery. Seth Smith and the Padres agreed to a 3-year contract extension. Mark Trumbo went on a rehab assignment, should be back shortly after the All-Star break. Old man Raul Ibanez signs a deal with the Royals after being released by the Angels. As we said, Alfonso Soriano was designated for assignment by the Yankees. Yankees also acquired McCarthy from Arizona for lefty Vidal Nuno. David Wright returned after missing 8 games with a sore left shoulder. Ryan Braun left Saturday's game. He had some lower back spasms. He's considered day-to-day. Edwin Encarnacion took a nasty fall at first base. He left Saturday's game with a right quad strain. Not sure if he's going to be out for a while. My guess is he'll probably miss the All-Star game. If that's going to be anything serious, he's going to have an MRI to check that out. And Troy Tulowitzki from the Spankers Crankers missed his second straight game with a tight groin. He did return to the lineup today. There's a look at your injuries, transactions, trades, DFAs, all that kind of good stuff that we got going on in Major League Baseball. Everybody's back, so here we go, guys. Back to you.
And we are back on the Clubhouse Show. Dave LaPointe, Mike LaValliere, Chris Stansbury, the Meatball. Doing it with our words and our emotions. We got Fernando and Julio just sitting over there quietly, sipping on a little rum and coke, pushing the right buttons, making sure that we don't mess up. Boy, I tell you what, there's been some emotion coming out of us today. And Spanky, I love you. Are so sexy when you get like this. And we have reached that All-Star break. And some of us, you love the All-Star break, you hate the All-Star break. It's 3 days off in a row that, half the trouble was, now it's 4 for most teams, flying home, getting the arrangements, no matter where you're going, how am I going to get there, how am I going to get back? Are the teams going to have practices or workouts during the All-Star break? If you're a rookie, they're going to. You have to be around. If you're a veteran, you just take the 4 days off. This is a good time and a bad time. But general manager-wise, this is a time where we look and see where we are and who's available. What teams are out of the race right now? Who are we going to go out and get? The trade deadline is August 1st, if I'm correct.
July 31st.
So we have to go out and look and see who we can get. And right now we're watching the Tampa Bays are beating up on the Detroit Tigers 3-0 going into the bottom of the first. Do the Tigers need to get more pitching? Is the guy pitching against them tonight, David Price, a guy that's out there and is available? I said 3 weeks ago that David Price would be a St. Louis Cardinal. I think the St. Louis Cardinals have fallen apart internally with their pitching and so many injuries. I'm not sure they're going to go out and get anybody. They can't afford to get rid of anybody.
Well, it's I think Price's teammates have rallied around something, and maybe that was their wake-up call. Hey, look, if we don't play better, we're going to lose Price. And they have turned it around. There's still some baseball to be played. The deadline is July 31st, I believe. So there's still, again, 3 weeks can really tell a lot. And you're going to find some teams that right now they're still in it, and the Rays have started to play better. If they can continue, they may just keep Price. But, if you're looking at him being traded at the deadline, whoever's going to get him basically has him for about 45 starts. You got to figure half of this year and then one full year next year. Okay? So you're looking at 45 starts. What are you going to pay for that? Are you going to just rent this guy, or are you going to try to make him a building block? Whenever you look at the building block thing, and now it's like, well, gee whiz, who can afford him? I'd have to think that, I look out there and Cole Hamels. I mean, he's a guy that, he's got a limited no trade clause. He may be one of the guys out there what I would call a number one, an impact guy. If Price doesn't go, then I may think that, if Philly continues to stink it up, they may just go ahead and move a Hamels.
And also maybe Cliff Lee also come back from injury.
And you're talking to, a couple guys that are, getting a little bit older, and, are you going to retool? Are you ready for that? The Blue Jays, could the Blue Jays use another pitcher? I mean, are the Blue Jays are they going to be, in the David Price hunt here? You're looking at that ball club, and they get all kinds of hitting. Do they have enough pitching? There's the obvious of who can afford, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers. Well, let's put David Price in a Dodger uniform and put him in there with Kershaw, Beckett, the Ryu, and Greinke.
Dodgers are the only ones that don't need a starting pitcher. Right?
Well, you know what?
Unless Beckett goes back to the bullpen.
Well, again, that's you look at that. Is it overloading? Well, hey.
What do you feel? What do you feel the over/under is right now? I'm saying All-Star break. If you're over 6 games out, let's say if you're 7 games out, I think you're out of it. I got
to go into double digits. I really have to think about it.
Not far away.
Yeah, if you're over double digits, you've got to really think about moving some guys. I think even if you're 9 games out, I still think you can have 2 good months and be able to to make it back. But again, that could be situation-wise. Is that just in your division? There are some teams that are going to be back maybe 11 or 12 games, but be close as far as the wild card goes. So for me,
let's go. The Philadelphia Phillies are 11.5 games out of the wild card position right now.
Yeah,
time to sell.
In 3 weeks, if they're 11, to me that's treading water. It's time to think about making a move. If they're more, they're done. But now if they can whittle that down from 11 to 8, you know what? They got some veteran guys.
Which means they've got to get Cliff Lee back.
Sure, absolutely.
Starts, and then if they start gaining ground, then you keep them.
Exactly. And like I said, there are 3 weeks left, and these 3 weeks are going to determine, who are going to be the actual players, in the trade market, and who are going to be the pretenders. Who are the guys that it'd be a good idea to get rid of this guy, but we really can't afford it, or we want to acquire this guy, but geez, we just can't make that work.
The Phillies right now are sitting in the cat seat. Now, if you want to talk about going back to rebuilding, and I'm not sure Ruben Amaro Jr. is that type that wants to do that, this bunch of guys that they have, Jimmy Rollins is available to the right trade if he agrees with it. Jonathan Papelbon, A.J. Burnett, Chase Utley, a long shot, Cliff Lee, the before mentioned Cole Hamels. There's their whole team right there that could be going someplace. And I think if I'm Jack Zarenzik of the Seattle Mariners, I'm in a steady conversation with Ruben Amaro Jr. right now. There's a couple players on the Phillies that I would love to get.
Well, if I'm Jack Zarenzik, I'm also having conversation with the Rays. And the team up in Seattle, they've got some younger guys. And whenever you give up a David Price, you're going to have to give up a pitcher that's going to be an impact guy, a guy that's going to be young enough to where you're going to be a cornerstone guy. To me, that's a Taiwan Walker. Okay, you're going to have to be able to give up a number, say, top 5 prospect in their organization, and then another player. And right now, Seattle fits that description.
Maybe you can look that up and see where the Seattle Mariners minor league system rates according to everybody else and how strong their minor league system is. Boston Red Sox, they're getting close to where they're not going to be. My opinion is I think the American League East, I think all 5 teams are going to be within 5 games by the end of the season. But if the Red Sox don't regroup, John Lester is that arm out there that I think a lot of interest is going to come, because he's doing that. I'm going to negotiate. I'm not going to negotiate. Now he's doing the I'm not going to negotiate till the end of the year. That usually means he's going to test free agency.
Sure, and their general manager, fairly new to the organization, is he willing, to rock the boat in Boston? Boston's a rough place. I mean, it is
They love their Sox.
Oh yeah, and if you decide that you're going to dismantle the Boston Red Sox, you're going to have all of New England, on your ass. If you're ready for that, and if it's the right thing for the organization, just be ready. You're going to have everybody from New England that is, going to think poorly from that. Now, is that going to keep them away from Fenway Park? I don't think so. They're going to be selling their Fenway Franks and their big beers, and the Narragansett, and they're going to be doing that. But you know what? It still won't be the same.
I think Victorino started his rehab.
I think so. Yes.
Victorino. There's another big cog. If they, this kid, the kid they brought up, Mookie Betts looks like he's a pretty good player.
Sure.
They get Victorino back. They get Lester. Maybe they do come on. Maybe they got to get Buchholz back. And like I said, they're 8.5 out right now. The Rays are 8.5 out. They both look like they can make a move right now, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to pull away. The Yankees just went downhill, and Toronto's going to go downhill without Encarnacion. So do the Orioles? Are the Orioles? They're the ones, but they still seem to me like they're not that team that's going to run away with it.
Well, it's right now. It's still good week, bad week. You have a good week. You go 6-1. You go 6-1. Somebody goes 1-6. Now all of a sudden, you're 2 or 3 games out. So, and that's why I thought double digits at least.
And that's what
by July. And that's out of the wild card.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. And the thing about the Rays is, Tampa Bay, they have that history. They came from 10.5 back in late August a couple of years ago, as did St. Louis in the National League too. But they came from 10.5 back, so they know that it can be done. And I know Stu Sternberg, they were ready to deal Price, Zobrist, these guys last week, and then all of a sudden they start winning a couple games, and now Stumer's like, we're going to take this right up to the deadline. When you guys are talking about Hamels and Lee, the issue with those guys is going to be their contract. I mean, those guys are making $20 to $25 million a year. It's going to be hard-pressed for another team, especially with a guy like Hamels, who's, got 6 years left on that deal, something like that?
But
that's
Seattle
commitment.
would be that team that's going to go all in.
Yes.
And they have the money to do it right now. Their
the money and the pieces
have gone out. So say if they go out and get Jimmy Rollins, say if they go out and get Matt Kemp, and they need one more starter, do they have enough chips to trade? You just showed me that stat. They're 17th in Major League Baseball in the rating of their minor league system. That tells me they don't have enough chips to trade. But what hurt the Seattle Mariners is Paxton getting hurt. He's probably done for the year.
Yeah, there's no timetable.
There's a pretty good pitcher. They got Walker back today, and I watched him, and this guy's throwing 95 miles an hour with a 73 mile an hour curveball. Looked good. He didn't look like he was intimidated by anything, and you've got King Felix talking to you every day, telling you how to pitch. That's got to be a plus.
Oh, without a doubt, and that's why I'm looking at Seattle, and it seems that that they've got a pretty good checkbook. To me, I think they can make the deal, and for me, that gets them that one big piece to where now they can start becoming a little bit more of a contender and give Oakland a little run for their money. I mean, Oakland has fired the first salvo. They've already made a big trade. All right, no, is Seattle going to stand pat?
And
I mean, if I'm Seattle, I can't.
As Verlander said, they made that trade to beat the Tigers, and I got to agree with him.
Yep.
You know, if you're going to beat the Tigers, you got to go in and outpitch them come September, October. I think he's absolutely right. Two of the teams right now that are wild cards. We talked about Seattle, the Los Angeles Angels. What do they need? You know, it's hard to put a finger on them. If they get all the offense working in the cylinders that they got right now, they don't have to worry about their offense. What do they need? It seems like they're going to need stuff in the back of the bullpen. Is Papelbon an answer for them?
Maybe. He might be.
You know,
I mean, personally, I wouldn't take him. I mean, I think he's overrated. But the guy's got 300 saves in the big leagues. He's won a World Series with the Red Sox. He's been there.
I kind of like to think that my pal Jason Grille, I like to think that he's going to get it back together again. You know, out of sync, out of whack. Got traded up for Frieri. Here's a guy that was, you know, just I don't know how many saves he had last year, but you know he's been through the wars. Is a guy that you know, again, he's a heck of a competitor. I like to think that he's going to be able to step in there. You know, I've been wrong before, but you know, I
would
know
you
the
go
guy.
out and get Papelbon as a setup guy? I mean, he can't go more than one inning. He's proved that. But would you go get him for the 8th inning?
You know, I don't know if Jonathan Papelbon is the guy either. You know what? It would be one of those. You know, I need to go out there and really take a look at this. I need to go out there and find that guy. Is it a Dylan Betances? You know, for the Yankees.
Who's got to be untouchable?
Well, you'd have to think so.
Right.
But then again, you know, there's very few untouchables out there now.
Do the Tigers worry about Joe Nathans, who's not really having that stellar year that Joe Nathans used to have?
I think
do you go out, if you're the Tigers, go out and get a backup in case that happens. You know, Jabba Chamberlain's not the answer. Phil Koch's having a terrible year over there. Do they have to go out and get somebody else for their bullpen?
Yes.
I think Papelbon, that's where he's going to end up. I really think that if they move him, he's going to go to Detroit. And Detroit needs another starter, too, because, I mean, let's face it, Justin Verlander is not Justin Verlander. The curse of Kate Upton, if you want to call it that.
As I'm looking over this, before we came on the air, the guys that I thought would be chips, Starlin Castro was one of them. But I think for sure now you've got 3 prospects at shortstop. That's the guy that's going to move. Do the Mariners go after him? They need a shortstop. Miller's hitting 189, 190, you know, whatever. They need something better than that if they're going to be Division I.
Yeah, they've got you know, virtually no production at all.
I love Franklin.
You know,
I wish they would have kept Franklin at shortstop and gone away with Miller, and I think they'd be a lot better off.
Well, you know, it just when the numbers aren't going to change. You know, Franklin had his chance. Was he good enough? Was he not?
Well, he didn't field.
You know, you know, ultimately, you know, you got to find somebody that's going to fit the bill. They were happy with Miller's tools, but you know, as we all know, you know, that difference between AAA and big leagues, you know, sometimes it's real small, but for some guys, it's the longest bridge in the world. I mean, it's, you know, something that guys can't get over that hump. It's the brighter lights. It's the fastball that's got just that little more giddy up. It's that sinker that's got a little bit too much sink. It's that ball that you don't quite get to, in you know, big league ballpark, that, you know, in the minor league ballpark, grass may be a little thicker. You know, those are all these things that make a huge difference to some of these guys. And, you know, you look at guys that are, you know, tools guy like Miller, but, you know, if he's not doing it, hey, gone. See ya. Yeah. You know, how many chances are you going to get to win a World Series?
Right.
You know, I mean, when it comes down to it. Hey, Jack. Hey, Duranzik. Guess what? You know what? If you don't win with this team, okay, you're going to be looking for a job. It's simple as that.
Your team was a mess last year. Your manager had a stroke. He's now an announcer on ESPN. You now have turned that around in a half a year, and you got a chance to look at this, and you've got a great fan base out there that can get better. You got to pull them chips. All right, we're going to take our last break over to the Meatball. This is the Clubhouse Show coming to you live from Doc's Grill at Summerfield Crossings Golf Course. Meatball, take her away. Talk about your latest fantasy picks for the week.
All right, guys. Let's first start by taking a look at what I picked last week and see if we got anything going on. At the pitching position, I took Steven Strasburg. Strasburg was very strong in his only adding on Tuesday. He went 7 2/3. He only allowed 1 earned run on 5 hits, struck out 8, and got the win over the Colorado Rockies. Only blemish was a solo homer for DJ LeMahieu. Due to a day off, Strasburg was bumped back to Monday for his other start that was supposed to be today, so he will get to face the Orioles at home tomorrow instead of going twice in this week. So Strasburg might be a nice pick next week with 2 starts. For my hitter, I took Freddie Freeman. Last week was pretty kind to Freddie and the Atlanta Braves. The Braves won 9 in a row, and when scoring runs, Freeman was involved in almost all the rallies. He went 7 for 21, 30-33 average. Power game wasn't there. He didn't have any homers, but he did have a couple of doubles, a triple, 6 RBIs, and 5 runs scored to rack up some nice points for the Braves. This week's picks at pitcher, there's not a lot of great matchups for anybody that's going to get 2 starts, so I'm going to focus on 2 guys that are both great options for fantasy players. First, and they're pretty standard, pretty obvious. First, you have Yu Darvish. He's going to face the Houston Astros. The Astros don't score a ton of runs, and they lead the MLB in strikeouts. The Rangers aren't playing very well, but they'll have to score a couple of runs for him to be successful. The other start is a complete no-brainer. Clayton Kershaw does have the Padres this week on Thursday. It's been a couple of weeks since Kershaw allowed a run, and the Padres are by far the worst offensive team in baseball. Either pick is safe this week, whichever way you wanted to go. Ryan Zimmerman is my hitter for the week. Zimmerman hit .556 in the last 7 days, going 10 for 18. He has benefited from adding Bryce Harper back into the lineup, even though Harper hasn't done much. He gets to face the Orioles, in which he has a .303 career average, 7 homers, 18 RBIs. He has 3 lifetime at-bats versus Monday starter Chris Tillman, and has homered in all 3. He gets to face the Phillies, which he's also very familiar with, and has pretty good success against the 3 starters that he's going up. This week's team, I'm going to take Yu Darvish or Clayton Kershaw as my pitcher. You can go either way. At catcher, I'm going to take a little lesser-known guy, Robinson Chirinos for Texas. He's been hot this week. He hit .421, had 4 homers, and 6 RBIs. He's getting hot, and with Beltre having another MVP-quality season, that lineup can be very fearsome, and Chirinos is going to get some pitches to hit. First base, he plays both first and outfield. I'm going to take Steve Pearce from the Baltimore Orioles. He's really tearing it up after moving into the number 2 spot. He's going to play both first and left. This week he hit .344, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 7 runs, and even had 2 steals. He's benefiting from hitting in front of the red-hot Adam Jones and Nelson Cruz. Second base, Seattle's own Robinson Cano. He had .385 this week. Had some home runs and 8 RBIs. He was 8 runs scored, leading the Mariners to a nice spot in that wild card. Third base, I took Ryan Zimmerman, as I said, is short. I'm going to take Andrelton Simmons from another guy who's benefiting from moving to the 2 spot in the order. Simmons hit .407, 7 RBIs, 4 runs, and a steal. Freeman and Upton hot behind him in the order. Look for Simmons to continue getting pitches to hit. Outfield, we got Jason Worth. The Nationals' offense have been clicking of late with Harper returning, and Jason Worth has been holding his own. He hit .474, 2 homers, 9 ribbies last week, and his favorable matchups this week with Baltimore and Philly. Nelson Cruz is my other outfielder. He hit 2 home runs to keep the lead. Cruz even stole a couple of bases. It's a tough lineup to face when you got to have Pierce, Cruz, Jones at the same time. And finally, my other outfielder, I'm going to take. The average isn't the best, but you need a couple of power numbers. Bird is your guy. He had home runs in bunches, and last week he had 5 home runs, 6 RBIs, and he could be a very, very valuable asset to fill back. As you can follow us on Twitter at My Clubhouse Show, at Dave LaPointe, at Spanky Catches, at Mr. Meatball Says, if you're looking for some Twitter advice. Send us your questions, comments, tell us what you got going on. We'd love to hear from you guys. Back to you.
Back here at the Clubhouse Show, coming to you live from Doc's Grille at Summerfield Crossings Golf Course. I tell you what, it's a golf course, but there sure are a lot of distractions that take place during a broadcast, a live broadcast, and you don't know what it's like to be a professional. It's tough being a professional in Major League Baseball, but it's tougher being a professional in Major League Broadcasting.
Yeah, somebody, you get somebody's tickling your sack, getting the gooch going on. You got a little bit of that. It is what it is, but hey, we make it work.
By the way, folks, neither Dave nor I are even close to the meatball right now, so neither of us have done that. Oh, and by the way, way to go on your fantasy picks, you brave bastard, taking Clayton Kershaw. The nuts like you have are so big that I just can't believe it. The week before you took that. That McCutcheon guy from Pittsburgh. You are the bravest son of a bitch I've ever met. Nice going.
If Kershaw falters, we got Strasburg.
No, I took Yu Darvish in my.
We're going to go on a limb there.
I did, and I knew that you guys were going to give me shit, so that's kind of why I went through and I went Robinson Chirinos, Steve Pearce, Ryan Zimmerman, and Andrelton Simmons, Marlon Byrd, who, by the way, you should add to your Phillies list because I think that guy with 18 home runs is going to be one hell of a pickup.
If I'm the Phillies, that's the one guy I keep.
Well, you know what? Let's call you Mr. Meat Large Balls.
I'm going out on a limb, I know.
Yeah.
Hey, Spanky, we're at the halfway mark of the season right now, and Meatball did his last week. I'm going to go with mine this week, our mid-season predictions for the big awards for the end of the year. I'm going to go Rookie of the Year. These are the two. Abreu of the White Sox, I think, is just a runaway. I think he's already won the award because Tanaka's a pitcher. He's not going to get it. I think Meatball might have been the same thing. I'm going to go with Billy Hamilton of Cincinnati. The kid for Pittsburgh's got a chance, and he's doing pretty well right now, but Billy Hamilton seems to be getting his ass a little warmer to Major League Baseball.
Well, and he's a guy that he's going from day one. So you got to figure the numbers are going to be a little better, and hey, that's part of the equation.
He's at 280 with 30 stolen bases.
What kind of sucks for Polanco though is it wasn't his fault. Should he have been there in April? Well, anybody can make that argument. The Pittsburgh front office deemed that he wasn't ready, and decided to take him. Again, after the Super 2 thing wasn't an issue, they did try to sign him to a 7-year deal, which they did not do. His agent or whoever was running his deal, went ahead and nixed that idea. So but I still think whenever it comes down to it. It's got to be a numbers thing, and MVP for me is you're the most valuable player on a good team. Unless your numbers are so absolutely knockout crazy, okay, and everybody else's are just kind of average, and I think we get the peanut gallery out there.
87 Andre Dawson.
Yeah,
Cubs fan. He had one thing to root for 20 years.
Yeah, nice. Hey, Cub fan, go sit the fuck down, okay? Go get you some.
The only thing you know about October is you're watching other teams.
Yeah. What kind of hot dogs do they serve at Wrigley Field in October? None. Okay, so anyway, sorry for all you Cubs fans out there, but you got to deal with hecklers as should be. I'm working on the stand-up comic thing.
Best thing about hecklers, they're not usually very intelligent, so we have the power of the microphone.
I'll put it this way: they're here listening to us, so that has that shows them something.
All right, let's go over to the Cy Young. I think Tanaka's going to run away in the American League. In the National League, I'm going to go with Zach Greinke. I think 2 starts ago, he got his ass kicked by somebody that he was not supposed to, the Colorado Rockies, and I think you're going to see him just go on to tear that second half. And Wainwright is going to be there all year, but I think Wainwright's already had the problem with his elbow. I think he's going to miss some time in the second half. It's going to sneak back in there and get in there again. I think Greinke's going to run away with it.
Well, no arguments. He's pitching in a good ballpark. He's pitching for a good ball club. He's going to end up getting those wins, if his offense, continues to improve, that, some of these other pitchers aren't going to get because their offense and their teams aren't quite as good. So, maybe the earned run average might not be as good, but, when it comes down to it, it's hard to not give someone the Cy Young if someone's got 20 wins. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean,
right.
If someone's got a little better earned run average maybe, but has 16 wins, and you have someone that the earned run average is a little higher that ends up with 20 wins, I kind of have to give it to the 20-win guy.
A couple of years ago, I never agreed with Felix Hernandez getting the Cy Young over CC Sabathia. I mean, he had better stats all around, but he didn't win 15, 16 games that year, and CC had 20. That's one I disagreed with. I think that voted the wrong way.
Right, without a doubt, and that's where you had a great year, but part of having a great year is your team and how good your team is, and that's sometimes a factor.
I'm going to go with the easy one right now that nobody really cares too much about, but Fireman of the Year, I'm going to go Craig Kimbrell, who's the best closer in baseball right now. The American League, I'm going to go with Fernando Rodney. Nobody wanted him. He was a late sign. Nobody wanted this guy because he shoots the arrows after a game. But this guy right now has really turned it on. I think he's only blown 2 saves in a whole year. I think he's going to be the American League Fireman of the Year.
Yeah, opportunities, and then that's where comes down to there's some great closers out there. I think Houston Street, with San Diego, I don't know if he's blown a save yet this year. And if he has, it's been one. But here's a guy that I don't know how many saves. Hey, Meatball, how many saves does Houston Street have? However many he's
Pretty
got.
Sure he's 23 for 23.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whatever it is, he hasn't had the number of opportunities that some of these other guys have, and it's who knows.
Speaking of rebuilding, right off the top of your head, who's the closer for the Cubs?
Hector Rondon.
Hector Rondon. How many saves he got?
Well, they've won about 4 games, so he's probably got about 3 saves.
All right, we go to the big award.
I know Willie, the vendor that serves old style. I heard he's got a pretty mean curveball.
What about what was that guy that used to hang out outside the clubhouse?
Lefty who? Lefty who?
MVP. I'm going to go out on the limb right now and say Nelson Cruz is going to get it for the Baltimore Orioles. In the National League, I'm going to go with Yasiel Puig. So I think the Dodgers are going to be there at the end. I think he's just going to continue to put up numbers. If I'm a general manager going out to reload my team and get ready for the playoffs, I'm getting a couple pitchers and I'm going to get both of those guys out.
You're going to tell you the truth. You know what I'm going to do? Is I'm going to try as hard as I can. Okay, if I'm a development guy, okay, I'm going to go to Cuba. Look at the guys that we're getting in MLB, okay, from Cuba, and these guys are studs. Abreu, Puig. I mean, you got some guys that, these are seasoned players. I'm going to find a way to go ahead and make some people defect. How about that? How about if we come up with a little plan? Maybe Meatball can design a boat for us, and we can run a little shuttle service back and forth.
Wait, Julio's
Captain
from
Meatball.
Cuba? Julio was a Cuban that moved to Maine. Why the fuck would you ever pick Maine to go over to? You had no choice, right? Man, that raft got really lost, didn't it?
They couldn't find him up in Maine. That was the safest place.
I thought this was only 92 miles.
You
Jesus,
want to talk
ride.
about a raft getting lost? Woo, boy, he missed course.
You know that Gulf Stream? If you get on a certain side, it's hard to get out of it, and it just dumps you right off in Maine.
Hey, Mommy, the water's getting a little cooler.
Well, fellas, you asked me in Houston Street. Yesterday he did blow his first save against San Francisco. So he has a 1.13 ERA, 23 saves. He was sub-1. He was having that Fernando Rodney type year that he had with Tampa Bay, which is like one of those Eckersley, Rodney years that were 2 of the greatest years for closers. Houston Street was having that. So Houston Street, only 30 years old, by the way. Seems like he's been around forever.
Yeah, why can't we throw him into the trade mix? Why can't he be a guy that could go out there? San Diego.
What else does San Diego have?
Hey, they fired their general manager. Let's go ahead and retool and let's get some more players.
If you have to rebuild, don't you have to keep something?
Chase Headley's about the
going to
only
be there forever.
Cameron Maben, Carlos Quinton, those are the only guys.
Yeah,
that
I would think Chase Headley's probably on the blocks. But it kind of depends. Hey, look, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to dangle you out there. I'm going to throw some bait out there. Okay, I'm looking for a whale. Okay, I'm not going to settle for just a nice trade. And you know what the easiest thing to do is take him out. Well, I'm going to reel him back in. I didn't get what I wanted. But if I'm in San Diego, okay, and I think I've got a pretty good team. Okay, and Houston Street is 30. He's injury prone. He's having a fabulous year. But every year he spends time on the disabled list. Okay, I may be willing to take that chance if I'm out of it. You know what? What can Houston Street give me that will help me win next year or maybe 2 years down the road?
But he is a top step reliever. He is like Fernando Rodney.
Without a doubt.
Nothing's a sure thing.
Without a doubt.
Here's a trade. How about Chase Headley going to the Cardinals and move Carpenter back to second base?
That's been in the news over there that they were looking at trade things, and even a name that I even heard is that maybe with Texas free falling, that Adrian Beltre could be on the block.
Oh, he's one of my favorite guys.
And I think he would look beautiful, and the Cardinals need power.
The shortstop for Texas.
Elvis Andrus is going to be on the block,
Why
too.
is he not one of those guys that might, go to Seattle? Somebody else might need a shortstop right now. There's a guy, Boston Red Sox. Are they going to get back into it? Could they use him? Interesting names, and there's always the popular guys on a team you want to get rid of. But, that's going to draw you the chips you're going to get back.
Well, again, that's you play baseball as a player knowing that's always a chance that you're going to get moved. And, and it's, if you're well-liked, then it's an unpopular thing. But you know that someone that's trading for you, they like you. And if they liked you in St. Louis, they're going to like you in Pittsburgh. And that's the way I kind of took it. So, all of these guys, yeah, they're popular. Talks about, even like a Neil Walker, being traded from Pittsburgh. Here's a hometown guy, but the emergence of Josh Harrison. Josh just made the All-Star team. You get Josh that can play second base. What do you do there? I mean, here's a guy that's as entrenched as anybody in the Pittsburgh community. Grew up there, born there, the whole thing. That's his only team that he's ever played on. He was a original catcher. And I was a catching instructor. Whenever he was 18, he got invited to big league camp. I worked with him when he was a catcher. Here's a guy that's been there forever. He may get moved.
Josh Harrison's my favorite player in Major League Baseball right now.
Jay Hay is, I tell you one thing, this dude right here, I wish I could have played with Josh Harrison. This is a guy that brings it every single game. And I ain't just saying regular season. This is in spring training. I get to see him every single day. Here's the guy that goes out there, he smiles, he has fun, and he busts his ass. He's by far one of my favorite players.
Well, a lot of kudos go to Mike Matheny for picking him for the All-Star game, and he definitely is a guy that deserved to go. We got some milestones coming up shortly. Hopefully they get him soon. Albert Pujols is coming up on 1,555 RBIs, which would tie him with Willie McCovey for 41st on the all-time list. Pujols definitely one of them shoe-in Hall of Famers. Mike Trout coming up on 500 hits.
Already?
You think that he might have been past that already? That's funny to me. What else we got here? I can't read my own writing. Ichiro Suzuki coming up on 2,800 hits. Can he hang around long enough to get 3,000 and be in the Hall of Fame in Japan and the United States?
Not with the Yankees. I don't believe he'll be able to get that with the Yankees. I gotta believe that he's going to have to go to somebody else and get some more playing time for him to have a chance. Now, obviously, the guy's in good shape. He's taking good care of himself. I don't believe he's the everyday player that he was, but if he ends up in a platoon situation,
he'll still get 100 hits a year.
Yeah, I think he's got that potential. With more right-handed pitchers out there. Yeah, without a doubt, 100 hits is definitely within his grasp, and even possibly a little bit more. But to me, it's not going to happen in the Bronx Zoo.
I think he'd be a perfect guy to go to the Cubs with that outfield that horseshit outfit that they have up there, with all these young prospects that are coming up in with the Cubs organization. I think that he would be a great guy to mentor these young guys that are coming up with the Cubs.
Derek Jeter coming up on 3,400 hits, which doesn't place him any higher in the list. He's still got another 100 to go to pass somebody. Joe Mauer coming up on 1,500 hits.
That's it.
Is he going to get to 2,000?
Wow.
If there is a guy you thought would be a shoo-in for 3,000 hits, he might not get to 2,000.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that really and truly.
You think he'd have a lot more now, right?
Yeah, I thought he'd be somewhere well over 2, looking for 3, without a doubt. I mean, that floored me right there.
There's another one of those guys. Concussion, can't catch, got to go to first base, doesn't have any power. It'll be a sad day in Minnesota when they trade him, but they're going to have to pretty soon.
Well, you'd have to think, first baseman with no power, and I watch now, and what they do to him is that they just throw the ball away from him, and he slaps it in left field. I mean, they just they don't even bother keeping him honest. There's the occasional mistake where they throw it middle in now, but it's to the point where he's just so locked into just slapping it to left. There's not a whole lot of options.
Maybe they're going to teach him how to steal bases. Maybe he'll be more effective.
Yeah, and then he's got the same steal sign as I do. When the third baseman jumps up and doesn't come down, you go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, another good show from the Clubhouse Show with Mike LaValle and Chris Stansberry. We will be taking a week off next week as I am heading to St. Louis for the Summer Legends game, which I have to go coach a team there and pretend I know what I'm doing, but we'll be back the week after here from Doc's Grille at Summerfield Crossing Golf Course. But once again, Mike, Spanky, love having you. Fernando Julio, another great job behind pressing all the buttons. To all of our rowdy spectators that have been interrupting our show, we love you. All right, week off next week. We'll be back the following week. We're out from the Clubhouse Show. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.